Our next presenter is going to be Perry. I'm going to butcher this. Ismangil?
Yes, okay.
Wow. He's going to be talking to us about PJSIP and a decade of portability.
Yeah, so this is the future, as David said, has arrived now. So I'm from, is this okay? Or, yeah?
Yep.
So I represent PJSIP, where I am now is, so that's my name, Twitter handle, some more social media stuff on my link there. What I want to talk about is a PJSIP, which is, so I think this morning we've been hearing on the server side. So on my presentation there'll be no scripts, no quotes, that's for the morning. So we're on the client side, so this is the thing that is put on the client, although Dave mentioned is on the server to handle the client side, the style of the SIP style of PJSIP. So we're on the client side. It's used mainly for these protocols. The main protocol is the SIP STP, RTP handling, and the NAT traversal. So so the objective is ease of use, but I think this is a slight, probably when we say ease of use is we were having this question before in asterisks like ChanSIP versus PJSIP. When we mean ease of use is on the stack side.
Oh great, thank you very much for doing that, I appreciate that.
There's still an interference. David, turn the mic off. When we say ease of use was the creator of PJSIP, which is not myself, it's my partner Benny Priono, is at the time we were starting, were concerned that the stack at the time was not ease of use friendly in the sense of programmer friendly. It wasn't programmer friendly. So he set out to develop a stack that is more programmer friendly. We also wanted to be obviously compliant, as much as compliant can be in the SIP world of RFC. I'm sure many of you have encountered things that are supposed to be compliant. We don't do it as often now, but I think in the past there were up to, I don't know, maybe 3 to 4 years ago. Every year we go twice a year to go through this SIPIT, which is SIP interoperability testing. A bunch of people, probably some of you, most of you here were also there, putting things, bashing things against each other. And because things have got a little bit more stable now, I think we're now down to every couple of years we still meet. I think we last met in 2016 or something like that to do a bit of more bashing. So that's on the compliance side. The three things at the bottom, the portable, small, fast, was also a big goal at the time, because he wanted something that is different than what was before, a monolithic, sometimes complex, written in a higher level language. So this was, because of that, the choice of language chosen to write PJSIP in was C. So this was started in 2005 now, so almost now 13 years ago. So in a nutshell, what has been gone since then is we've gone to almost probably 4,600 commits. The core developers mentioned here are all, so this is different than, this is basically a single company sponsored project now, and all the 4 core developers are employed by by our company, Teluu. I'll tell you a bit more towards the end. And there's about 550,000 line of code. And it has been evaluated by Ohlo at the time, and then now OpenHub. That is well commented. When it's mature, obviously, because it's been a long time, and we're still going. Now, I think the first commit was around 2006, that when we published it in the world, so that's about 12 years. Yeah, stable year-on-year commits means we keep developing it now. It's still in heavy development, in the sense regular releases are coming up. So throughout the years, there are some stuff you might recognize or not recognize here. Obviously, the Mac, iOS, Android is still here. But I don't know whether anyone ever used the Symbian S60 series. Obviously, this was the smartphone of the day. I remember having, is that E71 here? This one, E71, when the iPhone came out, and in 2007, and I was like watching the Steve Jobs, and why is that phone? You know, it can't do even MMS or video at the time. Well, that phone was pretty capable. I was emailing, I was doing stuff, and so forth. And yeah, and we actually, I think, supported Symbian before iOS, because iOS at the time wasn't really coming up with a proper SDK and so forth. Even though in the early days people were jailbreaking iOS, well, it wasn't iOS at the time, called I think something else, but they were jailbreaking it and putting PJSIP on it without an official SDK anyway. But yeah, we were supporting Symbian and so forth. But yeah, so now that's dead. Symbian's dead, and where we are now, we have a large bunch of code that we wrote for that is now no longer needed. So out of the 550,000 line of code includes obsolete code like Symbian. Windows, although Windows itself, the desktop Windows is still used here. Over the years, we've been a decade. I think we started at the time with support obviously around Windows 5. I don't know whether anyone remember Windows Mobile 5. So we have that using Visual C at the time. So Windows Mobile 5, Windows Mobile 6, up to Windows Mobile 7, and then there's sort of like going down, and then they resurfaced with Windows Phone 8, and we were just about released, I think last year, proper support for Windows Phone 8/10, the UWP, the Universal Windows Phone, Universal Windows Platform thing, and then they killed the Windows Phone now, obviously. So that was another effort that's gone. BlackBerry. I was here for the launch here in Amsterdam, for the launch of BlackBerry 10, BB10. So that was a nice few years of BlackBerry 10. I think we got a contribution that one, so not totally our work, from our friends in Truephone in the UK. So they built, they were in collaboration with BB10, with BlackBerry, BB10, and then that's gone as well now. Obviously, they've now all moved to Nokia, and BlackBerry has moved on to Android. So that's our, I suppose our big focus now is on iOS and Android. Yeah, so there was some community member early on that developed something for Nintendo DS. We presented that in FOSDEM 10 years ago now. Yeah, some interesting stuff. Obviously, phones, hardware phones are the stack in there. There's plenty of stuff out there. So this is the company I'm talking about. So not plugging the company, but it's just to tie in with the fact that currently PJSIP is supported by the professional support given, the non-free license, that the GPL exceptions that we also provide to some companies who doesn't want to do the GPL license, and that provides support for the PJSIP project on itself. So this is probably I still have plenty of time, so I'm just probably not going to use my time. If there's any question, otherwise probably we can continue on with the program. Is the roadmap for PJSIP is pretty much now the same for a lot of the open source communications, open source real-time communication. Everyone's obviously now still focusing on mobile phones. We're still keeping up with all the iOS, Android stuff. It's both easy because now all the SDK are available and pretty much complete. On the other hand, it's also not easy because some people, for example, things like on the video side, the H.264, we're still stuck with H.264 mostly, and that's not quite open. Yes, open, some binary license, non-binary license. Every phone here has a coder, decoder, but not always accessible from a stack like PJSIP when we want to use it. So it's not uniform, the access to things like video decoding and encoding. Obviously WebRTC now is still there. We are trying to align our development more with WebRTC, things like DTLS and various other support needed in PJSIP. Yeah, so other than that, I've nothing big to say about it. Other than if there's any questions. I'm not the technical guy. If you do want to meet with the whole team, we are at the ComCon next June in the UK. So if you want to meet up with all the developers there, we are hanging out in the UK for once because everyone is spread out in Indonesia and Singapore. But we are meeting in the UK. So if you want to meet up in ComCon next June, that would be great. Yeah. Any questions? Very good. So yeah.
Do you have any particular roadmap for sort of WebRTC integration as far as like DTLS ICE, sun mining support?
Yeah, DTLS, I think we did DTLS, and then there's still the SDP. There's some SDP that we still need to hack about.
Okay.
If there is anything in particular you think that wasn't or shouldn't be there, send us a shoot or something.
Okay.
Because we are a bit, when I say not quite struggling, but when we say interoperability, there are levels of what you need or what you can do. And some people are like,
Yeah, I think that generally speaking, DTLS is supported, but for WebRTC interoperability, there has to be the ability to do like stun mining and ICE candidate election and things like that. And I wasn't sure if PJSIP implemented those things to allow like direct interoperability with other WebRTC clients at this point.
I think that's what we want to do. That's what the roadmap is. We want to have direct interoperability without any hacks or anything. Yeah.
Okay.